Hey, it's Brooklyn, your Misophonia Rewiring Coach. Welcome back to the Let's Ditch Misophonia channel. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about coping mechanisms for misophonia. Which are more effective? What are some coping mechanisms that you may not have tried yet? And also, I'm going to share my unique perspective on my unique perspective on coping mechanisms that is probably a bit different than what you've heard before. So let's dive into it. I first want to share my take on coping mechanisms, and I want to start by saying I am not someone who thinks that you should not use coping mechanisms. I think sometimes people hear what I'm saying and they're like, oh, Brooklyn's saying that coping mechanisms are bad. I think coping mechanisms are life-saving and they can be super, super effective, especially when you pair coping mechanisms with actual strategies to rewire the way that your mind processes noises, to actually get you relief from misophonia so that you no longer have to rely on coping mechanisms, or you can start using them less and less. I do want to share though, the things that we go out of our way to avoid, our mind typically labels those things as dangerous or not good to do, not good to have done. So for example, I, for a long time, had really, really bad medical anxiety. So if I ever had to have lab work done or some kind of test with an IV, I would avoid it. And so when I would finally go in to have that procedure done, I would pass out, I would get sweaty and clammy, I'd get really worked up. And so my mind started creating this pattern or installing this pattern of, oh, this thing is bad to do. So anytime I would go to get my labs done, I would get sweaty, anxious, feel like I'm about to pass out because my mind's like, danger, danger, we should not do this thing. It's not, your unconscious mind isn't operating on logic. So it doesn't matter if you consciously know that this thing isn't actually dangerous. I know that going to get my blood drawn isn't actually going to kill me, and yet the response was still the same. Whereas the things that you go out of your way to do, mind sees as, oh, this is good to do or good to have done. So for me, I love roller coasters. I love going to Cedar Point, Kings Island, different theme parks. That's really fun for me. Other people hate roller coasters or are terrified of them. You might also think of a smoker. They probably consciously know that cigarettes are bad for them. They want to stop. Maybe they've even had a loved one who has passed away from lung cancer. They consciously know that it's not good to do, but their unconscious mind keeps sending the signal again and again of cigarettes, 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 smoke, 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 because there's some kind of benefit that mind is getting from smoking. And because they continue to reach for a cigarette, mind is like, well, this must be good to do because we keep going out of our way to buy these cigarettes. So why am I sharing this? Coping mechanisms can function in the same way. So we have this misophonia pattern at play. You likely consciously know that a noise, whatever a trigger noise is for you, that it's not actually life-threatening. A whistle, for example, is not chasing after you with like a sock full of nickels threatening your life, asking you for money. It's not actually a threat. We know this. And we're also not consciously choosing to be frustrated by these noises. Who on earth would consciously decide to experience misophonia? None of us. And if you're watching this video, I'm sure it's not an active choice that you're making. And yet your response is the same. Some people might even call it irrational. And again, unconscious mind is not functioning from a place of logic or rationality. Its purpose is to keep you alive. So for whatever reason, it's decided that this noise or set of noises are a threat to your life. So it's going to do whatever it can to get you away from that threat, which is going to be creating rage, anger, frustration, panic, so that you take an action to either get away from that threat or to eliminate it. So when we think about coping mechanisms, let's think about a pair of earplugs, for example. When you put it, like you hear those sounds and then you take that action and you plug your ears, what's actually happening is we're reinforcing that pattern of misophonia. So your mind is like, phew, success, we've eliminated the threat. We can no longer hear it. Good job. And so the next time you hear that sound, it's going to send that signal again, danger, danger, danger. And you might grab your earplugs even faster. Maybe you just never take the earplugs out. because you're avoiding it, because you're intentionally going out of your way to avoid that threat, which in this case is the noise, it becomes even more dangerous. Just like a zebra in the wild knows to run away from a lion. It's probably watched the other zebras run away, or maybe it saw a friend of his get eaten by a lion. It knows lion equals danger. Fear activates in the zebra to get the zebra to run away. Same thing is happening when we use these coping mechanisms. We're reinforcing that fear. And again, I'm not saying that coping mechanisms are bad or that you shouldn't use them. They can be life-saving, especially on those days where your nervous system is just fried and you are just trying to survive. Like you're in a doctor's waiting room, you've had just a really, really stressful day and you just can't take it anymore. Those earplugs can save your life. For me in college, I relied on earplugs a lot, or plugging my ears. It was the only way that I could make it through. So in that case, they can be really amazing. And also they can actually make things worse. So if you've noticed that as a little kid, maybe you had 5 noises that really triggered you. And now as an adult, maybe you have a list of like 150 things, because the more we feed into that spiral, the more intense it gets. So what I recommend is, rather than investing in new coping mechanisms, rather than looking for and spending time, money, and effort on new coping mechanisms, is instead to pair the coping mechanisms that you already have, to pair those with the actual rewiring strategies to get relief, so that you rely on those coping mechanisms less and less. Well, I love loop earplugs, specifically the switch version, where you have 3 different noise reduction levels in one earplug. Like you can turn a switch and you can get different levels of reduction. I love these earplugs because they cut the intensity of the noise without completely blocking it out. So it gets you some of that relief to kind of calm your nervous system. And it also still gives you an opportunity to do the rewiring work, to break that pattern and install something that's more useful. Now, I thankfully am now affiliated with loop earplugs. I wasn't always. I'll tell you though, I genuinely really love them for myself. I use them for sporting events, concerts, and I actually have a podcast episode where I talked about using them at a conference when the room was really loud and I put like an earplug in for an hour just to reset things. I absolutely love them. I have sent them to clients. They love them. There is a link in the description. You can shop through my affiliate link. I do get a small percentage of that if you shop through that link. I genuinely love these. So whether you use the affiliate link or not, I think they're amazing and they have a really good return policy as well. Anyway, so coping mechanisms, I think they're extra effective when you pair them with the rewiring work to actually show mind that those sounds aren't a threat, so that you're relying on them less and less, and then eventually you don't need these coping mechanisms anymore. I do want to share though some of the coping mechanisms that I have found to be effective and why that is. So obviously I've talked about loop earplugs. I think they're really amazing because again, it lowers the intensity of the sound without completely blocking it out, or you can switch them to quiet mode and get even more noise reduction. I love using my AirPods with music as well. Music is very healing for me, so I relied on those a lot when I was suffering. You can also obviously leave the room if that's possible. And if you are going to leave the room, especially if you have to go back into that triggering environment, I really encourage you to use that time intentionally. So rather than going deeper and deeper into the thought spiral of, why is this person so annoying? How do they not realize these sounds that they're making? This is so disgusting. I wish I could just be normal. Cutting that spiral and using that time to really reset. So maybe that's doing like an EFT or a tapping session. Maybe it's doing some intentional breathing. Maybe it's showing your mind, hey, yes, that was uncomfortable, but we survived. So reinstilling that sense of safety. Maybe it is meditating for a few minutes. Maybe it's putting in a song and just kind of resetting. Using that time intentionally to reset your nervous system. So if you have to go back into the environment, you're not completely overloaded. I also share some additional coping mechanisms inside my free digital guide, 26 Strategies for Misophonia Relief. And that book is full of amazing strategies to really help your mind see that sounds aren't actually a threat. It's some of the exact strategies that I use to eliminate my misophonia after 20 plus years of suffering. It's the same strategies that my clients use to get results. And again, it's free. So if you are wanting to check out some additional coping mechanisms in addition to strategies to actually help you lessen the intensity, to lessen the severity of the misophonia experience, click the link in the description. You can download your free digital copy. And again, if you're overwhelmed by the vastness of the guide, I encourage you to really start with one strategy at a time and implement additional ones as you feel comfortable doing it. Don't try to implement everything all at once. That's going to be complete overwhelm and you'll probably find yourself back to square one. Just do one thing at a time and then you can start adding in the other strategies. Thank you for hanging out on this video, and I will catch you in the next one.